Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Halo universe, not the expanded universe of Star Wars. Today, I'm discussing two things in my chronological order of the Halo universe as best I'm figuring out how. But I have a movie for you, and I have the next novel by Troy Denning. So, starting with the movie, I don't have any really notes to talk about. It's the kind of thing you should experience it for yourself, especially in comparison if you had to suffer through the TV show of Halo, which I did. And it's if you want to know what Halo's about, please don't watch that show because it is not Halo in any way, shape, or form besides having the title Halo. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about some good Halo content. So, there was a movie that came out. It was fairly low budget. In fact, what's funny, last thing I'll say about this, every single episode of the Halo TV show had about the budget of this entire film. And you saw what we got. Anyway, before Halo 4 came out, we got a small movie called Halo 4 Forward Onto Dawn. The Forward Onto Dawn is a ship that we see in Halo 4. And the character we follow here, we're going ways back, all the way back to the Covenant War. And the reason I'm placing it here is because John is said to be 15 years old in this story. He is also dubbed Master Chief officially. If you could hear that loud car, I apologize. My goodness, it was loud as frick. But at the end of Silent Storm, John gets the title of Master Chief. And he's called Master Chief in this movie. So it's got to be placed here and before Oblivion. So it's about where I'm putting it. But we follow Lasky. Now, Lasky is a character that we also meet in Halo 4, so we get to see him as a teenager, training at this facility. He's not a Spartan or anything, he's just a normal soldier. He's training at this academy. Remember, we're a year into the war, and the galaxy is a big place. So, literally, people at this academy don't even know. Well, at least the students don't know about the aliens because, well, most likely, their teachers aren't telling them. As far as they're aware, they're training to fight terrorists, to fight insurrectionists, to fight separatists. So the movie is fairly slow for the first, hour. But I loved it because it gave us time to actually care about these kids. Because realistically, you can make a fan film that's just 40 to 30 minutes of this movie, and you'd have a pretty cool fan film. Regardless if you cared about the people that were, trying to survive. But because we have that time, and because I think the directing and the acting is pretty fine. It's not Oscar worthy or anything, I don't think, but it's good. And I think one of those girls is from Narnia, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I didn't double check that, but she looked really familiar. But anyway, so we get about an hour of learning more about Lasky, learning about his family, his parents, learning about his brother in the army. We get to see some of the other kids. The other kids get development too. So that way, when the Covenant, and it's a slight spoiler, but when the Covenant finally comes to attack, right, you care. Because you've had the time to actually care about these kids. If the movie had started at this part where the Covenant showed up, you wouldn't care as much. Other than them just being kids and you instinctually, be like, you must protect kids. But other than that, you wouldn't care. But because you have that time, you can actually. I cared more about these kids in an hour than I did for any character in the Halo TV show, and that had several hours. So, Take that for what that's worth. But anyway, Master Chief does show up, and his voice is a bit different. So if you're not expecting that, it might pull you off guard. I mean, it's the same voice, deep, but it's clearly higher in the sense that, like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's still gruff, like you'd expect, but he's younger here. He's only 15 in this movie, so you can clearly tell there's a difference. But anyway, so Master Chief tries to help these kids, find a way out. He's a kid too, I guess, but they don't know that. He's just in the big giant suit. And so he's trying to help them get out. There's some cool action scenes. And before Master Chief even shows up, they effectively have the Covenant. They use the CGI pretty well. It's clearly CGI. It's not like makeup or anything like these original Star Wars trilogy. It's, more like the prequels of Star Wars with the CGI. But because of the lighting and how they do the shots, it's a lot more intimidating because you don't get like there is one scene I think where you get like a straight look at an elite, but there's a lot of scenes where like you see the like shimmer of the cloaking, and so you can't actually see. And then you'll have other scenes where you like start to see an elite, but you can't see it fully because the kids are running, so it changes their perspective of running. Not like first person, but like the camera changes, so you can't see it anymore. So it effectively makes the enemies you fight in Halo, if you weren't Master Chief, if you weren't a Spartan, absolutely terrifying. And then Master Chief shows up, and you get that relief. But anyway, it's a really cool little story. It's nothing big or major. It just gives you more insight into Lasky mainly, who's an adult by the time of Halo 4. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good movie. Maybe it's just because I just sit through the absolute garbage that was the Halo TV show, but I thought that this movie was actually pretty good, and I do recommend it. I think you can find it on YouTube for free if you just look up Halo 4 Forward on the Dawn. I don't know how long that will be true, but at the time that I watched it, it was. But now we move on to Halo Oblivion by Troy Denning. So this book takes place 6 weeks after Silent Storms, which means that I put Halo Forward on a Dawn somewhere within that month gap, right about there. So, but we are continuing off of the story last time, sort of. I mean, it's not the same exact thing, but the heroes are still trying to find some Covenant technology so they can study it, so they can research it, so they can start making countermeasures against the Covenant. Because as of right now, after these 6 weeks, after that one little failure that the Covenant had in that book, in Silent Storm, they are pissed. And they have been destroying human colonies left and right. You have like 3 colonies being taken down like every week or every month or something like that. The point is, humanity is in an even worse spot now that the Covenant got slightly pissed off. So things are not looking good, and there needs to be some sort of small turnaround at the very least. Most of this book takes place on a single planet, Nethrop. They go to this planet, and there's a whole bunch of things that go down. I enjoyed this book, but I will say Silent Storm was the kicker. I don't think Halo Oblivion is nearly as good as Halo Silent Storm, but it's not a bad book or anything. But yeah, they're still trying to find info about the Covenant. And there's like this crashed Covenant ship on Nethrop. And Halsey and the other people advising the Spartans, they pretty much know. Like, this is most likely a trap. Because they know about the Spartans, and they realize that the Spartans are their biggest threat. And so the Covenant wants to get rid of them. And so they know it's probably a trap, but at the same time, they really need something against the Covenant. So the risk is warranted, I guess. Like they're willing to go through with that, even though they know it's probably a trap. We get to see the elite Nizet, who was the main antagonist, I guess, of the last book. Because of his failure at the end of the last book, much like Arbiter in Halo 2, he must go and speak with the prophets of truth, mercy, and regret. And it's always good to see them because they're really fascinating characters. I hate them, but they're really fascinating. But yeah, so we have this whole prophet scene, and Nizet tries to tell them, like, Oni is the one that is orchestrating all of humanity's efforts against us. So if we destroy Oni, we pretty much ruin the army of the humans. And so he wants to use one of these beacon things that they have to, because basically the beacon message is instantaneous. So if you were to leave this beacon in human space, like next to Earth or something, right, and have the bing go off, then like every covenant would know about that location. They can immediately go there and um, stop the humans. Issue is though, during the last book, one of those things was on his ship, and it blew up with the ship. And so the prophets are not willing to go through this mission. So he's ordered to go back to his ship um, to be reassigned. But in reality, he's going to get his head basically chopped off. Um, Now, Nazet knows. He like predicts. He's like a prophet, sort of. He like knows that, this is going to be a long and bloody war, and many humans are going to die. Many of the Covenant will die. But in the end, if we keep going this route, humans will end up eventually winning. And so he wants to put a stop to that. So Nazet literally goes rogue. The people are supposed to be killing him. He and his men kill them. They steal the other beacon thing. They go off on their own to stop the Spartans. So on the one hand, Nazet's up against the Spartans, but he's also up against his own covenant because now he's become kind of a traitor. So that's everything that he's dealing with in this book. And then there's the whole big section of this book on this planet is we learn that there's an ancient civilization on this planet, but it was not the Forerunners. Forerunners who created the Halo rings and all that stuff. It's not them, it's some other ancient race. Not super ancient as the Forerunners, but still like an older race. We have a bunch of children that are left on this planet. We find out that there were some insurrectionists slash terrorists, and the UNSC caught them and threw them on the planet and left them there, which is illegal, I guess, but they did it anyway. And so these kids have kind of grown up on their own on this harsh planet. And so it's a whole thing about the Spartans, like John and everything, willing to um, help them out and get them off the planet. Because they're like teenagers and children. They shouldn't be on there alone. Um, and so that's all okay. It wasn't my favorite. The whole thing takes place on the planet, so I feel like it was a bit slower paced. I mean, it is fast paced. There's a lot of action stuff, but again, um, I felt like Silent Storm had a good blend of action and like character moments. I didn't feel that as much with Oblivion. And I've never been much of an action guy. I know, funny, we're talking about Halo, and I don't like action. I like playing action. Like, if it's in a comic, if it's in a video game, I like to see it. When I'm, like, reading about it, unless you're, like, an author that can really visually describe everything wonderfully to me, I just kind of zone out during the fight scenes, which is, I feel is going to be an issue personally with me. It's not an issue with the book. It's a me personal problem. So it's going to be an issue with a lot of Halo books, I'm sure, because I imagine a lot of Halo books are going to be full of action, so that is what it is. It's the same problem I have with Star Wars, where I kind of check out during the fight scenes, but at least in the novels. But yeah, I think overall this book is pretty good. It's Troy Denning did better with the last book, Silent Storm. There's some good moments with John still. There's some good moments with Kelly even, and especially Fred. All these people being Spartans, and they do a lot with that. Um, I definitely think you cannot read these books if you haven't at least read The Fall of Reach. It's kind of a required reading. Um, if you're gonna get into the EU of Halo, you need The Fall of Reach. Otherwise, I wouldn't know who any of these characters are, which I think is why so many people are pissed with Halo 5, because Kelly shows up and Linda and all these characters, and people that don't read the books would be like, who the hell are you? And that's the problem with Halo 5, is it kind of requires you to know a lot about the expanded universe, which, I mean, is great for expanded universe fans of Halo, but if you don't like to read books, then it's going to be really jarring to you, and that should never, like, in Star Wars, you had the 6 films, and then you had the entire expanded universe, right? And those would continue story then on forth if you wanted it, and you get stuff in between and whatnot. But the movies themselves are fine on their own. So, anyway, overall though, I did enjoy it. It's a bit weaker than the last one, but I think if you're a Halo fan, you'll still really enjoy it. So I do recommend it. And until next time, guys, um, I can't say may the force be with you. May the great journey let you prosper. I'll work on that. I don't know. This video is a monument to all your sins. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.